and associated factor, diagnosis of bronchiectasis, bacteriology of the bronchiectasis, treatment, and of course, I'll be giving concluding remark as well. Let us come to the definition. The bronchiectasis is abnormal and permanent dilatation of bronchi. It may be either focal or diffuse. It is disorder that typically affect older individuals. Approximately 2/3 of the patients are females, and it remains one of the important respiratory problem. Bronchiectasis represents the end stage of a variety of pathological processes that cause destruction of bronchial wall and its surrounding supporting tissue. The clinical manifestation includes chronic cough and copious mucopurulent expectoration, often lasting for months and years. This is what is the hallmark of this bronchiectasis. The copious, purulent, at times foul smelling expectoration. Whenever such type of the problem, one should suspect having the bronchiectasis. As for the prevalence of disease, I already said this is one of the common problem, especially in developing and underdeveloped countries, though its prevalence have decreased and at present in western countries and at present 52 for 100,000 people. But it is still remains one of the very important and serious problem of the countries such like India, where the tuberculosis is still remains one of the important problem. Childhood infections still remains one of the important problem, and these childhood infections and the tuberculosis produces ultimately the bronchiectasis, and which lead to the increase in prevalence of the disease. It decreases, it reflects, the presence of bronchiectasis reflect on the quality of life. As far as the pathology of this disease is concerned, the bronchial dilatation is associated with destructive inflammatory changes in the walls of medium-sized airway, often at the level of segmental and subsegmental bronchi. Airway inflammation is primarily mediated by the neutrophil and result in upregulation of enzymes such as elastase and matrix metalloproteinase, which are ultimately responsible for causing the destructions. The normal structural component of the wall, including the cartilage, the muscles, the elastic tissue, are destroyed and may be replaced by the fibrous tissue. And this is what is the gross picture of a bronchiectasis. And you can see the thickened wall and dilated lumens of the bronchi. The dilated airway frequently contain pools of the thick purulent material, while more peripheral airways often occluded by the secretion or obliterated and replaced by the fibrous tissue. The additional microscopic feature include the bronchial and peribronchial inflammation, fibrosis, ulceration of the bronchial wall, squamous metaplasia, and mucous gland hyperplasia. These are the important features of bronchiectasis. The lung parenchyma, normally supplied by the affected airways, is abnormal, containing worrying combination of the fibrosis, emphysema, bronchopneumonia, and athletics. And this is what is the picture, the gross picture, and you can see the dilatation of the airways, both mid-size and at the periphery also it is dilated. As a result of inflammation vascularity of the bronchial wall increases with associated enlargement of bronchial arteries and anastomosis between the bronchial and pulmonary arterial circulations. This ultimately responsible for huge bout of hemoptysis, which is one of the presenting symptoms of the bronchiectasis. As per the morphological types of the bronchiectasis is concerned, it can be divided into cylindrical bronchiectasis, that is what dilated into the diameter, bronchi are dilated into diameter. Secular and cystic type, these are the dilated sacules and cysts which are often present and at times there is abrupt end instead of tapering end due to the obstruction of the peripheral bronchial tree by the secretion, cast and inflammatory wall edema. The varicose bronchiectasis, the third type, is marked by the presence of the irregular dilatation and tortuosity. And you just varicose, you just remember the name varicose vein is similar to that of the varicosity and tortuosity of the airways. And this is how they are seen. And you can see the tubular and cylindrical bronchiectasis, the two is a dilated bronchi, varicose, you can see the varicosity and tortuosity of the airways, and saccules and cystic bronchiectasis, you can see the cysts are present and saccules are present in airway. As far as the etiopathogenesis of this disease is concerned, infection is usually responsible for inflammation. The microorganisms such as Pseudomonas and Haemophilus produces pigment, proteases and other toxins that injures the respiratory epithelium. And because of the impair of the respiratory epithelium, there is a impaired mucociliary clearance. This impaired mucociliary clearance ultimately causes accumulation of the mucus secretion, mucus fluid into the airway, and that lead to the microbial colonization and ultimately infection and inflammation, which further causes airway damage. And this is how the vicious cycle is concerned. Here, look here, the cycle. The primary insult by the acute and repeated respiratory infection in a healthy individual causes damage to the respiratory tract, and this damaged respiratory tract, there is impaired mucociliary clearance, and because of the mucociliary clearance, impaired mucociliary clearance, there is a microbial colonization which ultimately further causes inflammation, and inflammation further causes the impaired mucociliary clearance. And this is how the cycle moves on and form a vicious cycle. As far as the causes of bronchiectasis is concerned, there are infectious causes, mainly the adenovirus, influenza virus are the main viruses that cause the bronchiectasis. As far as the bacterial causes are concerned, the virulent bacteria such as Staph aureus and Klebsiella and anaerobic organism are responsible for causing the bronchiectasis, damage and destruction of the bronchial wall, because since they are the necrotizing bacteria. The infection with the Bordetella pertussis, particularly in the childhood, is responsible for causing the bronchiectasis in children's. The bronchiectasis has been reported in patients with the HIV infection also. Tuberculosis remains one of the most important causes as far as our country is concerned. Non-tuberculous mycobacteria can serve as a primary pathogen, and secondary infections or colonizing organism may produce the bronchiectasis. There is another very interesting syndrome, the primary ciliary dyskinesia, or otherwise also known as immotile cilia syndrome. It is responsible almost 5 to 10% patient of the bronchiectasis. It is inherited and autosomal recessive genes. The cilia becomes dyskinetic, their coordinated propulsive action is diminished and bacterial clearance is impaired, ultimately lead to the deposition and colonization of microbial organism. The clinical effect include the recurrent and upper and lower respiratory tract infections such as sinusitis, otitis media and bronchiectasis. Males are usually infertile because of the immotile cilia syndrome. The cilia, especially the semen, the cells of the semens are immotile. The visceral rotation during the development depends upon the proper, as per the development of a situs inversus is concerned. The visceral rotation during the development depends upon the proper ciliary motion. Positioning of the normal lateralized organ become randomly. Approximately half of the patients fall in the subgroup of Carter-Jenner syndrome. The Carter-Jenner syndromes includes the situs inversus, the bronchiectasis and sinusitis. Now, this is how the Carter-Jenner syndrome is, and almost half of the patients are having the situs inversus. There are non-infectious causes as well. In some cases, bronchiectasis are associated with the exposure of toxic substances, the inhalation of the toxic gas such as the ammonia, or aspiration of acidic gastric content, at times responsible for causing the and development of the bronchiectasis. An immune response in the airway may also trigger inflammation, destructive changes, and bronchial dilatation such as allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. Alpha 1 antitrypsin deficiency is responsible, though it is uncommon type of the situation, but it may cause, if it exists, it causes phenylketonuria, emphysema, and bronchiectasis. Yellow nail syndrome is a grossly uncommon type of the situation in our type of the place in our country. As per clinical features of this disease is concerned, the cough with mucopurulent expectoration is hallmark. Cough is invariably present, often may be only symptoms for years. The purulent and tenacious sputum production frequently worse in the morning. The dry bronchiectasis, yes, at times a bronchiectasis do occur without expectoration also. Usually it is located in upper lobe. The dry bronchiectasis presenting as a cough, minimal expectoration and or hemoptysis. At times hemoptysis may be present. Otherwise, hemoptysis may be seen in almost 40 to 70% patient of the bronchiectasis, and it is one of the common presentation. At times a patient report to the doctor with the presence of the hemoptysis only, with the complaint of hemoptysis, which is naturally cause the anxiety in the patients. The acute exacerbation do occur, increasing cough, dyspnea, and volume of sputum production. Fever, hemoptysis, and chest pain are the hallmark of acute exacerbation. It do occur at times whenever there is a increase in the symptoms, there is a decrease in patient resistance, and there is excess number of the microbial organism are there in the airways. As far the physical examination of the patient of bronchiectasis is concerned, chest auscultation usually reveals findings of early and mid inspiratory crepes. At times crepes are present both in inspiratory and expiratory phases both. At times you may hear the diffuse rhonchi and prolonged expiration as well. Bronchial burst sounds may be present when in a severe patient of bronchiectasis complicating with the pneumonia, and it causes the bronchial burst sounds. Digital clubbing is one of the very important sign as far bronchiectasis is concerned. In a severe and advanced cases, there may be respiratory insufficiency and it may produce a scar pulmonale. As far the radiographic feature of this disease is concerned, the finding of chest radiograph are often non-specific. The radiograph may be normal with mild disease. The secular bronchiectasis may be prominent with the cystic spaces with or without air fluid level corresponding to the dilated airways. When seen, as far the cylindrical bronchiectasis is concerned, when seen longitudinally, they are seen as a tram track, two parallel lines. When seen in a cross section, they produce ring shadows because of what is called a signet ring. Because the dilated airway may be filled with the secretion, the lumen may appear dense rather than radiolucent, producing an opaque tubular or branched tubular structure, which may be seen at times in X-ray. HRCT images provide excellent view of dilated airways, and it is the diagnostic investigation as far as this bronchiectasis is concerned. I already said and already talked about the cylindrical types of the bronchiectasis, the cylindrical bronchiectasis, secular bronchiectasis, and varicose bronchiectasis. The cylindrical bronchiectasis I already said, when seen longitudinally, seen as a tram track, and when seen in cross sectional area, it's seen as a ring shadows. the cystic bronchiectasis, at times you may see the fluid filled cyst. Varicose bronchiectasis is a tortuosity of the airways are very much visible. The cylindrical bronchiectasis, it is, you see the cylindrical bronchiectasis and you will find a signet ring type of the structure. Here you can see the cystic and cylindrical bronchiectasis in right lower lobe. If you try to see, you will, it is visualized. And varicose bronchiectasis with the alternating areas of bronchial dilatation and constriction is very well seen. And you can see the picture on the right side, especially the CT scan depict both areas, cystic bronchiectasis and varicose. The cyst may be seen, the cystic bronchiectasis may be seen at the air fluid level. Very typically air fluid level is present. As far as bacteriology of this disease is concerned, the most frequent microorganism is Haemophilus influenzae and Pseudomonas, and are often implicated as a cause of periodical exacerbation. The colonization of Pseudomonas in particular has been associated with more severe impairment of the lung function, more intense inflammatory response and more extensive lung disease. Other pathogens that may require specific treatment such as nocardia, Aspergillus fumigatus and environmental mycobacterium or other bacteria which are ultimately responsible for causing the bronchiectasis. As far as predisposing and associated factors are concerned, bronchial damage secondary to childhood respiratory tract infection such as pneumonia, pertussis, complicating measles and tuberculosis were implicated as a common causes of bronchiectasis is even today common in especially underdeveloped and developing world. The typical appendix organism already said known cause of bronchiectasis include the Klebsiella species, the Staph aureus, the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the Mycoplasma pneumoniae, the non-tuberculous mycobacteria, the measles virus, the pertussis virus, the influenza virus, the herpes simplex virus, and certain other type of the adenovirus. Once a patient develops bronchiectasis, many of these same organisms colonize the damaged bronchi and may result in ongoing damage and episodes of infectious exacerbation. The organism found most typically are Haemophilus and the Pseudomonas. Again, these are the two common bacteria which are often present into respiratory tract of these patients. As for bronchial obstruction, it do occurs and do responsible for causing the bronchiectasis. The endobronchial tumor, the bronchiolithiasis, the bronchial stenosis from infections, the encroachment of the hilar gland nodes causing the obstruction in the airway, the foreign body aspiration ultimately cause the obstruction in the flow of secretion from the airway, ultimately responsible for causing the bronchiectasis. The allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, I already said, is one of the very important association. The allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis is the hypersensitivity reaction of inhaled Aspergillus antigen that is characterized by the bronchospasm, bronchiectasis and immunological evidence of reactions to the Aspergillus. Bronchiectasis at times associated with the autoimmune disorders. The autoimmune diseases are known to cause bronchiectasis by variety of mechanisms including parenchymal scarring, the endobronchial granulomatous inflammation and extrinsic compression of the bronchi. The rheumatoid arthritis is associated with the bronchitis, the Sjogren syndrome is associated, the ankylosing spondylitis, the systematic lupus erythematosus, the relapsing polychondritis, the inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease and the sarcoidosis is ultimately are the important autoimmune disorder which are known to cause, known to develop, known to associated with the bronchiectasis. As far treatment of this disease is concerned, therapy, whenever we are planning a treatment, therapy has several major goals. The important goals are treatment of infection, particularly during acute exacerbations. Treatment of infection is one of the most important thing to have whenever it is there, and especially important during the acute exacerbation. Improved clearance of tracheobronchial secretion is one of the very important goal of the treatment. Reduce the inflammation. Treatment of identifiable underlying problem, the disease which is responsible for producing the bronchiectasis is to be treated in a first. The treatment of bronchiectasis involved a multimodal modality. Multimodal modality means the treatment underlying it requires multiple means the drug therapy, the physical therapy, the mechanical therapy, the anti-inflammatory therapy are required. It includes the multimodal modality treatment includes the treat the underlying disease first if possible. Airway clearance is one of the foremost important by the mechanical and exercise or by pharmacological means. Anti-inflammatory therapy, especially in the form of macrolide and inhaled corticosteroids, have limited role to play. Antibiotics are the cornerstone of the treatment of bronchiectasis. They may be the inhaled corticosteroid available, oral antibiotics, and the parenteral antibiotics at times required to be given, especially in acute exacerbation, and treat the acute exacerbation. An aggressive treatment of acute exacerbation is required. I already said the treatment with the antibiotic are the cornerstone of the bronchiectasis management. The antibiotic are used only during the acute episodes and whenever you are finding the infections. The choice of antibiotics should be guided by the gram strain and culture report. The empirical treatment in the form of amoxicillin, cotrimoxazole, levofloxacin may be given, is often given initially, at times if required and you feel the severity of disease, amoxicillin, clavulanic acid can be given and should be given. Infection with the Pseudomonas is of particular concern as it appears to be associated with the greater rate of the deterioration of lung function and worse quality of life. There are no firm guidelines as per the length of therapy is concerned, but at times normally the treatment given 10 to 14 days, but if required the duration of the treatment may be further need to be increased and up to the 30 days at times it should be given. The inhaled antibiotics are the new discovery and new mode of the treatment as far as this bronchiectasis is concerned. We have great hopes from the inhaled antibiotics, but they are still in different phases of the trial. The important drugs are aminoglycoside, mainly includes the tobramycin, the gentamicin, the amikacin, all are in a trial phase so far. The fluoroquinolones, especially the dry powder and liposomal ciprofloxacin, is to be given, and it is still again in a phase 2 trial, going on phase 2 trial. But I already said and I hope that this will come in a big way as far as this disease is concerned in the future. And the second most important goal is to facilitate the drainage by mechanical method or devices or appropriate positioning. The mucolytic agent to thin the secretion and allow better clearance are controversial. The aerosolized recombinant DNAs with decreased viscosity, which decreases the viscosity of the sputum by breaking down DNA released from the neutrophil, has been shown to improve pulmonary function in cystic fibrosis. Its utility in a non-cystic fibrosis bronchiectasis is doubtful. Bronchodilator to improve the obstruction if it exists, aid clearance of the secretion, are useful in patient with the airway hyperreactivity and whichever place there is obstruction in the flow of air. Bronchial hygiene is one of the most important thing. Airway mucus clearance is the problem of bronchiectasis. The chest percussion and postural drainage have the traditional method of facilitating the mucus clearance. The postural drainage is one of the most important part of the treatment. The patient should be instructed how to perform regular daily postural drainage to keep the dilated bronchi empty of the secretion. Efficiently performed, this is of great value both in reducing the amount of cough and sputum in preventing the recurrent episode of bronchopulmonary infections. The postural drainage remains one of the most important treatment modality as far this bronchiectasis is concerned. As far the alternative therapies are concerned, the autogenic drainage, the mechanical vibration with the ultrasonic devices, the positive expiratory pressure and the flutter valve use without the assistance of another caregiver have been shown to achieve good chest clearance in some of the patients. But their rampant use is still not being, they are not rampantly used as a treatment modality as per the bronchiectasis is concerned. Mucus clearance and mucus hydration is one of the very important. The mucus hypersecretion is a prominent feature of chronic inflammatory airway disease. The maintenance of the hydration with the oral and intravenous fluid is considered useful in preventing the especially the inspissated the sputum retention. The humidification of the inhaled air or oxygen as an adjuvant to the chest physical therapy has been shown to significantly increase the sputum production. Use of nebulized normal hypertonic saline and acetylcysteine may be considered one of the important mode and adjuvant in the treatment of bronchiectasis. The bronchodilator, these are helpful especially in a situation where airway hyperactivity is there, and treatment with the therapy with the help of macrolides and inner corticosteroids is useful. It is to be given but having the limited utility. Surgery remains one of the most important mode of the treatment. The surgical resection of the most severely affected segment, the bleeding segment, the area of the lung harboring the resistant tuberculosis or atypical mycobacteria may confer significant benefit in terms of the symptom control, reducing the tenacious sputum production, elimination of the large volume of bronchial bleeding, reduction of the acute infective episode and improved quality of life. So, the surgical mode of the treatment remains one of the important mode, but it is to be done in only severe patient or patient having the severe bouts of the hemoptysis. Lung transplantation, yes, now it is available. It is now considered as a viable option in advanced patients. As far miscellaneous treatment is concerned, vaccination, yes, it is required to be given, especially this for the Streptococcus pneumoniae and influenza, which is vaccinations are available. The smoking cessation should be emphasized as a matter of routine. If evidence of exercise and nocturnal desaturation is there, one should consider oxygen supplementation and before the onset of pulmonary hypertension and cardiopulmonary, and improve the exercise clearance, exercise tolerance. And how it is diagnostic, there is a how to approach a patient of bronchiectasis. The appropriate clinical scenario, that is the appropriate clinical scenario is a patient having the cough, is mucopurulent, copious mucopurulent expectoration. Such patient are to be subjected for X-ray chest, PFT, sputum analysis and HRCT. If HRCT is a normal, consider and close observation why he is developing such type of the symptoms, and if abnormal, if there is a focal bronchiectasis, then consider for bronchoscopy induced sputum for the, which is the focal bronchiectasis is common type of the presentation in tuberculosis. If diffuse bronchiectasis is there, consider the quantitative type of the immunoglobulin, consider cystic fibrosis, genotyping and sweat chloride test. Studies of the ciliary morphology and function, semen analysis, the alpha, especially for the movement of the sperm into the semen, the alpha 1 antitrypsin level, the aspergillus skin testing, serum IgE levels, rheumatic heart disease, rheumatic disease, serologies and HIV tests. So, these are the important tests which are conducted. Just to summarize, The bronchiectasis is a disease with a significant unmet needs in terms of the treatment and reducing exacerbation. And as on today, it remains one of the most important cause of morbidity, and maybe because of the invention of the antibiotic, mortality is far less common. The significant limitation exists with our current treatment regimen, and we are hoping the antibiotic therapy in the form of inhaled antibiotic therapy come in a big way as far the treatment of this disease is concerned. The recent positive trial data reducing exacerbation of these patients are encouraging, and I hope the future is bright. But as on today, our patient needs to be treated with the antibiotic therapy, especially oral or parenteral antibiotic therapy. That is cornerstone of the treatment of bronchiectasis is concerned. With this remark, I thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you.